All right. See if I can be a little bit more locked in this morning. Welcome to everyone watching us back. Morning, Keenan. I really do need better bullseye counters. Like, there's nothing really I can do about it right now. I don't feel like I have better ones, because my Dazzler isn't duped. Um, I don't have Gentle. I just need to wait for the crystal to roll over. Oh, yeah, let's get Lumitrix for defense. Like, a large part of me wanted Wolf, but this will probably work. Morning, Dre, Alfie, Jackie, TC. Buddy. The meta's solid. I don't necessarily have the best answers for it, but that's a me problem. Yep, that's the thing I'm most scared of. I haven't tried this matchup yet in this meta. Still a very good chance that we lose because that's a solid rank or matchup, but let's see. Calm down, Alfie. In case you haven't noticed, I'm playing Battlegrounds here. I will get to chat. But during Battleground streams, you're probably going to be waiting longer than that more often. That was stupid. I should have used the striker instead. Lost all of the prowess. My bad. Oof, was late on the parry. Alright, well. I've also not been taking advantage of the fact that Dust can parry freely here. So, absolute waste on my part. But that's okay. That was slow enough. Either we lose horribly or they died to Photon. Yeah. We were nowhere close to that. That's fine. Okay, now I have time to read your question, and dude, that's the kind of question that nobody can really answer. I'm not nearly confident in my ability to see the future to try and give you an answer that you'll be happy with there. Like, especially you're giving a like not just 400, 417. What am I supposed to do with that, man? Ugh, dang it. My bad. You'd think I'd have learned that with the heavy. Oh, okay, yeah, that was too early. Hey, black hole. Don't even have max deep wounds. Deadpool and Venom are worse. Yeah, that would definitely make a difference. Thanks, Gota. Am I playing more Battlegrounds this season? I am. Um, I've kind of talked about it. There's a number of reasons for that. The biggest one is just I feel like I don't know what's going on anymore. And I don't like that. Like I used to feel like, okay, I can't hang at Celestial, but I know what's going on below there. Not anymore. Okay. Mordo's a cool shout. I like that. But yeah, for the pushing or park, I really don't know, Alfie. And anyone who claims that they know is lying to you or to themselves, is kind of the bigger thing. Because this is the first season with Radiance, right? This is the first season with Radiance, and there was a bug where everybody started closer to Glad Circuit than they were supposed to. All bets are off. Nobody knows anything. You just kind of have to figure out the score that you think you can hold and brace yourself. We might be able to make some more informed decisions in a couple seasons if there are no other confounding variables. Thanks for stopping by, Bleaky. You're probably gone already, but thank you. Hey, Brennan. Yeah, I'm doing well. Oh, welcome back, Nick, excuse me. Combined your first and last name. Question. I have a rank 4 in each class except Mystic. In my opinion, who are the best 3 Mystics? Ooh, I generally don't like ranking questions for a lot of reasons, but top 3 with a Battlegrounds focus is narrow enough that we can probably do that. I'm going to say this is with the assumption that you can play everyone perfectly, right? Given that, I'm probably going to go beyond top 3 because I'm not confident enough in narrowing it down to top 3. But I think it has to be pulled from Juggernaut, Enchantress, Tigra, Kushala, maybe Shathra if you're really good with her. Might be Rintra or Hood over Shathra. I'm curious to see how other people in the chat respond. Purgatory's very good, but she has no defensive value, and she's not quite as quick or, like, her utility doesn't come online as fast as the others. So I see her as more damage and less utility. She's very good. She's worth putting in decks most metas, but I don't think she's in the competition for top 3. And I love Purgatory. Yeah, Kabam Coop developed out of Morlock. They're no longer at the studio. Do I think it's important for my designs? I think it is specifically part of my advantage in designing. Yeah, Pablo, yes. Sometimes I'm more hooked into Battlegrounds than others, but I'm always more hooked into the end game than most of the other designers, right? That is one of the biggest things that I can pull from, and it's why I'm still playing War at a high level. I've just let Battlegrounds slip a bit. Pretty comfortable just saying no to those. We've got some answers for Sasquatch. Maybe Serpent is a better call because mine's only rank 3. This is a terrifying deck list, though. Yeah, glad we banned Serpent with them taking out my Shathra. Yeah, good point, Pablo, about the new matchmaking and new brackets. Okay. Let's pick up Mantis now. Yeah, Longshot's a little bit unreliable as a dual threat, is how I'll put it. Sometimes he's a nightmare, but if they just have a buff immune, it kind of doesn't matter. I'd love to take Lumitrix, but they have Dazzler. Maybe I should have taken Lumitrix anyway because they're decent for the node. I don't know about that one. Yeah. I Longshot's in my deck every meta, pretty much, but I often find he's not quite as good on defense as I would prefer. Werewolf is very good. It's just felt a little bit less dominant lately, so it's tough for me to go top three. But Werewolf is very good. I like White Tiger a lot. She's another one where it feels like the utility keeps her out of top three, but she's very good. Mystics are in an interesting place at the moment. I it's too late now to switch because the timers aren't actually 15 seconds. If you need to do anything, they're usually more like 9. But I feel like I probably should have put Werewolf there instead. We'll see. Oh, I know, Alfie. It's not terribly likely that we're going to do anything to buff Adam at this point because he is still good. But in hindsight, that stun absolutely should have been duration locked. Come here. Ouch. Yeah, that's why I didn't get aggressive. I knew the cowardice would be a problem, but yeah. Okay. And now I'm out of defenders. No, we'll throw down Wolf and we'll see how it goes. I feel decent about taking most of their options except maybe Domino. She spooks me a bit. It's just so hard to get the right mix of answers. Hey, Stig. Welcome, Alejandro. I'll catch up on chat in a sec. Wow. No. Oh, right. I have to knock her down before. My bad. Okay. That's how to do that. Yeah, no, Mystics are in a good place for sure. Yeah, and that totally makes sense, Brennan. Whereas, like, that's kind of where I'm going with it, is that, like, my Tiger's banned all the time. A rank 4 Juggernaut would never see the light of day. Wolf is a perfectly valid rank up. But part of his value is that people don't see him as an auto top 3, is how I would put it. Yeah, Hulkbuster's annoying as heck. For sure. Yeah, I mean, that ability wasn't intended to be. It's kind of control because she has Power Steel TC, but that's as much a defensive ability as an offensive one. No, I don't agree with passive, Alfie. That's a step too far. Duration lock is fine. And I don't think the pod one needs it either. It's really just the special one because you have to close the distance after. And that's what causes it to expire. The pod one doesn't need to be duration locked. You just need to have the reflexes to act when it happens, right? In my opinion, it's specifically just the special one stun because it expires before you can get to them after the special one ends. Maybe someday. Hey, Mike, howdy. No, I have not done the 9.3 beta. Morning, Akbar. I have a rank 4 Ascended Awakened Serpent. Better to keep him in the deck over Unawakened 7-star. No, I don't think so. Not assuming that 7-star rank 2. You're just so much bigger than a rank 4 at that point. Because the 7-star also has better challenge rating, is going to take less damage, especially from crits, is going to deal more damage through block, has access to stat focus. Like, if we were in a meta like Extend where the SIG was magnified, then yes, I would use the 6-star come what may. But in a generic meta, I think the 7-star stats matter enough there. It's tough to push for, Alfie. Thanks for coming back online, Mike. I appreciate you being a member. Um, how do I put this? Because, like, it's not that we can only do things that make money. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it's more when we do things, we have to keep in mind the precedence it sets and how that's going to impact the sustainability of the business going forward, right? And so, like, While that would definitely, it would be such an easy fix for Adam. It would take me 5 minutes. Like, the minute I do that, people start asking for a bunch of other things, also on existing characters, and then suddenly I'm spending a few hours, and then Balance is spending a few hours, and then QA is spending a few hours, and it's all on characters that already exist. And we want to do that work. I promise we do. But it's not like not really earning our salaries in the same way at that point. I don't know. Maybe someday. Yeah, we want to do it. See, Adam getting stunned in his pod, that's an explicit design choice. Because when we were going through Adam's design phase, it was the exact rules of what he gets protected from in his pod and all of that went back and forth a lot. Because it's a hard call to make, right? What is too much? And we ultimately decided it was pretty important for stun to be something that went through. But I fully understand it doesn't feel good. Every once in a while I see someone like a rank 4 Penny and I'm like, who do I have in my deck for that again? Can I afford to leave that open? This deck is terrifying. Like, I'm leaving open Spark and Hit Monkey and Jesus. Alright. I'm probably gonna lose. Yeah, I all I can do for the whiffing is pass it on to Art. There's very, very little I can do there, unfortunately. But I am sorry for that one. I wish I had more to say there. Oh, Tiger's open. How about that? I don't know that it even helps us, though. Well, it would have helped us for Hulkling. But I was like, I'm looking at that rank 3 Sig 200 Domino, and I'm like, Skull sounds good. That's all right. It just means we can't place future Ant-Man because we have to keep their Hulkling back. I can deal with that. Hey, Cat. Yeah, no, I'm terrified of that Crossbones, and I'm pretty sure we lose here, but I just... What was I supposed to do against this deck? I knew that was gonna happen. We just were getting terrible shock luck there. Oh, come on. Literally, if that sleep doesn't happen, we win. Yeah, they really are easy. Yeah, we both know what's happening here. Just do it. That's not what I saw coming. Okay. Okay, and now we throw down Lumitrix. And probably have to cut through Hulkling. Hey, Misery. Yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday, Ghost. I will try and pass it on today. That's cool, Misery. I'll take that. Classic pig opening. Absolutely nothing and then a heavy. Ah, My boy. I think we might have had that even against a 7-star Hulkling Pablo, but yeah. I'm definitely breathing easier right now than I would have been. Yeah, that's honestly just a miss, Akbar. Because like Adam was the first champion ever built with strikers in mind, right? And it was the same build as Moondragon, and we just weren't thinking about it on the other side. Or maybe it felt like too much. I don't know. Welcome, Sohaib. Sleep is indeed important. Important. You and me both, Pixels. I'm up to 11 total pulls for her. Meta's good. Feels like it's wrapping things up or shaking things up enough. Rank 4, I'd be sweating. For sure. Oh, I know, Ghost. I have rang that particular drum a lot. It's apparently tough to fix. Hmm. Impressive fight, though. Very impressive. I'm trying to decide if I want to play another one. I think I should probably just go start work. No 7-star crystal to open. I actually got something from an exalted crystal yesterday. Been a while, but I got a first awakening on arcade. Pleased about that. Morning, Jaeger. Yeah, that's very much what I'm doing to Snoops. Like I don't like thinking in terms of this pool is bad or anything. I think people get like way too wrapped up in nonsense and end up holding for months and then getting everything they want and they go, well, now there's a lot of misses, so I have to hold for months and months more. And you're just kind of sabotaging yourself at that point. But like if we look at the outgoing group, that's the one that's what? That's Nefaria, Enchantress, Black Widow, Bill, Shothra, Idum, if I remember correctly. And I have Black Widow at like Sig 60. If Count Nefari at I think Sig 40, Enchantress at 41. That one stung. I wouldn't mind Bill's dupe or Idum's dupe. I've got Shothra 3 or 4 times. But like that's the idea of pulling Sigs on Black Widow again because I was maybe going to get Bill or Idum duped is just not remotely worth it for me. So we're going to wait 20 days, and we're going to have 9 or 10 shots at Jean. Sorry, Pablo. It's definitely not just you, but I don't think that that is a net boon for fun. Can a rank 3 Degen and rank 3 Thanos take Necro on their own? Yeah, bluntly they can. Like, you're going to have a couple rougher matchups, or like, I don't know. Might cost you a couple more revives, but if you're trying to save rank up resources, absolutely. I had both of them at rank 3 and everybody else at rank 2, but I probably would have been okay without the others ranked. Yeah, Shothra is very good. I'd probably still be opening if I didn't have her at all. Only if you're looking at it a specific way, Ghost. I don't think that actually is strategically the best way. I think that is mathematically the best way to ensure the least overlap. But that is not the same thing as the best way to go about it strategically. And this is an error that people make a lot. Because if you aren't opening Titans for 9 months at a time, then your account is missing out on a lot of potential power every time you wait. You're reducing how much overlap you have, but the price you're paying for it is very, very real. It's very tempting in video games, especially video games with a like temporal component like this one, to look at things in terms of the absolute optimum output without taking into account time. But that's not how the world works, right? Because we are working with that fourth dimension. Time is a factor. And if you have those champions sooner and they are benefiting your account for months that you otherwise wouldn't have them, you have to factor that into the equation. And there's not an empirical way to do that mathematically, right? Which is why the easy thing to do is to ignore that variable. But you shouldn't. Congrats, Brennan. Probably zero chance of that, games. Honestly. It has been raised to the team that pulling a champion from the Titan and getting a Maxing crystal for them is not a good time. But short of that, that's kind of like how crystals work. Yeah, you're already getting it down to a pool of 18. But see, I can throw the same thing back at you, Ghost. Rosters are usually strong enough now to outlast that power creep. Okay, the overlap isn't that bad. I'm doing just fine and mathematically getting a decently even spread, even weighting, right? And even if you do that 9 month wait, you can still miss people. I opened, I don't know, 30, 40 Titans while Patriot was in there and don't have him. I think the biggest problem with the 9 month strategy is that you're kind of buying into this illusion that you are giving yourself control over something that is still random. And maybe you're fine with that, Ghost, but like I would not recommend that behavior to people. Because if you go, well, I waited 9 months and I denied myself all of these goodies for 9 months to make sure that I would get these people, and then I missed all three of the ones I wanted, that's going to feel terrible. That is the kind of thing that crashes people out and makes them not play. Like, I know a lot of people who have just said that they're quitting and mean it for at least a few days when something like that happens. You need to be really, really careful in a game like this, setting yourself up for that kind of disappointment. Because you need to expect a certain amount of disappointment. That's how gotcha games work. And so, yeah, Snoops is kind of joking about the philosophical, but seriously, from a psychological standpoint, you need to find a way to play the game that doesn't put you in the way of crash outs. You need to set yourself up for resilience against that disappointment. And that's a huge part of what I'm saying here. Yeah. TC put it well there too. Leader's great if they play somebody who's vulnerable to him. In that spot highline. How's it going? And I understand that too, Pablo, because God knows how many basics I've opened for Patriot now that he's in there. I don't. Yeah. I think you can do either, but it's very important to understand the what you're signing up for, right? Because if you're doing the 9 month thing, you need to understand what you're leaving on the table, and you need to understand that you're opening yourself up to that kind of concentrated disappointment. If you are okay with both of those things, then sure. In the very long term, it is maybe the better call. I still think that's a maybe because then you start confounding it with sales and special pools and all that kind of stuff. And the live ops of a game like this are complicated, right? But maybe it's the optimal point. But you have to make sure that you understand what you're signing up for, right? It's the same way that if you're me and you're trying to optimize that short-term fun and not concentrate the disappointment and everything, and you're making the opposite choice, you do have to understand that sometimes you are going to get a dupe on somebody who's been in the crystal for 8 months, and you're going to feel like, well, could have waited. It happens. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm holding right now, but I am not looking at the crystal as a whole. I am looking at those 6 outgoing champions. And part of the reason I don't like waiting really long term is that if you concentrate it, then you probably feel like you can't just look at the 6. You feel like you need to look at all 18 because you just blew a gigantic attempt, I will say, at trying to get all 18. And so like that's kind of my other issue with the 18 or with the 9 month cycle is that you're kind of setting yourself up to feel like you're locked into the 9 month cycle. And that's emotionally difficult in my opinion. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, games, because yeah, Jothra's great. It's kind of funny that that's your focus though, because I really wanted Patriot at some point, and I pulled Shothra like 4 or 5 times, kind of just along the lines of your complaint. If we stopped at 3, then I would have had a shot at someone else. And mean it for a few days is probably more funny than you mean it to be. I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody, right? But like, yeah, we've all seen that. A lot of us have done it where we're like, I'm done, and then we calm down, right? We're emotional beings. There's an element of that too, Easy, right? We're playing a gotcha game. There's dopamine attached to opening crystals. For some of us, you kind of wonder why you play the game if you go too long without opening some crystals. We had a guy rage quit because his Titan pulls were bad. Yup, I've seen that. Yeah, no, I totally understand that, Brennan. And I've said this before, but I do think it's very important to take breaks when you're feeling burnout, right? Like the game doesn't benefit from you white knuckling it and just keep holding on until you hate the game, right? It is designed as much as we can for you to be able to catch up if you take a break and come back. We ultimately want to be a forever game, right? You know, along the lines of like Warcraft or Magic the Gathering or something. And it's important in games like that that people be able to take a few years and come back, let alone a few months. I'm not saying we're doing everything there perfectly, but like, yeah, don't feel like you are failing or giving up in some way if you take some time off. Account growth is indeed compounding, Bookie. That's exactly the point I was heading at. No, because the champion has not been announced, Highline. I have said that my next champion is a Mystic because it has been confirmed in the lore corners that the June champs are Mystic and Cosmic, so that part is public, but not who they are. Nah, because if we traded, then see, think about it this way, games. If they let us trade, then on average everybody would have more of what they wanted. And so the game would make less money, which would mean to balance that out, everything would have to be more expensive. Get out of this screen before I'm tempted to press open for you. Okay. Are you still tempted? um yeah, and that wouldn't be good for the game. Like prices going up to compensate is annoying, but the other thing is that like then imagine that you couldn't find someone to trade. And then everything was more expensive and you weren't getting the benefits of the thing that caused it. I know that's a little doom and gloom, but like we kind of have to think in these loops sometimes. I just talked you into a Titan, you got a Falcon. Well, Falcon is underrated, but I'm sorry that's not what you wanted. Falcon is also still up for rebalancing if you're confident that there's a problem there. Kept pulling Onslaught but cannot pull Dust. Yeah, no, RNG is rough. Hoarding is fun because number go up. Hey man, you do you. As long as you don't crash out when number go down. Catching up has been a very positive experience. That's very good to hear. Gotten to nearly 107 stars. Been able to join the... Very cool, man. Happy for you. Only reason I'm scared to take a break is because of all the chase champs. I'd hate for it to be a champ I really want just to miss. I do understand that. Those will also be back, but I get it. I don't know how to feel about that ghost. I think my biggest reservation about a crystal like that is that its value would be highest for people who spend the most, right? And that might sound kind of counterintuitive. Maybe not to you, but like to some people in the chat, that might sound backwards, right? Well, no, if it's supposed to give me something I don't have, then isn't that great for people who don't have as many crystals to open? But it's even better for people who open a bunch of crystals and the RNG just has a few gaps left, right? Because I don't even spend that much, but let's... Haven't done this in a few days. Okay, so out of those that are in the basic, I think Corvus is now, Prowler, Patriot, Venompool. I'm missing 4. So if I open 4 of those crystals, I would know exactly what 4 champions I would get. Oh, sorry, Corvus is not. Okay, so I have 3. I would only need to open 3. And again, I am not that big of a spender. But the problem is that once you ship something like that, the value of 7-star shards, the value of Titan shards, goes down more for spenders. And I don't think it's objective that they should be. I understand where y'all are coming from, but like, yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. But like the value of that kind of crystal would depress the value of other crystals more for spenders than it would for other people, and that's a bigger problem, right? Because then that has a big effect on overall revenue. It affects how sales work. It affects how offers work. Yeah, it kind of feels like giving things away in the long run, and then the game suffers, right? If the game suffers, then other things, the money has to be made up elsewhere, and we generally don't enjoy when that happens. Is there anything objective about it having been a year, Alfie? Jessica Jones isn't in the basic. Wolverine Weapon X isn't in the basic. I realize they're not trophy champs, but like, it's kind of closer to that than to a Titan. There's nothing magical about a year. It's not that I think that they shouldn't be TC, but I don't think that they objectively should. I think that's people just projecting precedents. Hey, Hike. Would I say the same about champion selectors or less so? Very much the same. It's why we're careful with it. They're generally like the end of big sales and they're limited, right? No, it's not. Like that's... So there's... TC's calling semantics. Sometimes you can point to semantics, but the thing is that like semantics describes the actual meaning of words, and the meaning of words does matter, right? Like there's a phrase that's very popular among lawyers, which includes most of my family, saying like a distinction without a difference, right? But the thing is that not every distinction doesn't have a difference. Some distinctions are pointing to a difference. And what I just said is one of those, right? There is an actual difference because I changed those words. But see, that's you're proving my point, Alfie. You are projecting precedent. Why should the Heart of Fire event follow the exact same rules as the banquet? Why do they need to be the same? I could go and point to all of the exact differences. Why should they still be exclusive? People paid a lot for them. Easy enough for me. I do think that they are generally regarded to be stronger pools. People paid a lot for a bunch of stuff in Banquet. It's not just the champions. Those events from a live ops perspective are pretty darn different. Yeah, like Pablo was saying, the bulk of the value in the Omega Days and Heart of Fire events are the exclusive champions. I don't think you can say that the bulk of the value in Banquet was the champions to the same degree or even close. And yeah, and that leads to things like what Black Hole said, right? Because unlike Banquet, where you were getting a lot of generic resources for your units, in Omega Days, you were spending units pretty much directly for the champions. For them to then go into basics is therefore like a little bit of a different impact on the relative retroactive value of people's units spent. And Mookie's right as well, right? Like if they were just guaranteed to go in a year after, not that different from a Titan. It's totally fine if y'all don't agree, and we like. I'm not really interested in nickel and diming the subjective quality of individual champions. The point is just that just because Banquet worked one way does not mean that this other event that is not the same as Banquet has to work the same way. And that is the core point that I want you to internalize. You don't have to agree with it. It's fine. But they are different events, and you can't say, well, because this worked this way, this other thing has to work this way. But TC, you're not thinking about this in a way that's designed to keep a game going. And like I realize we're getting to the end of the stream and I'm trying to make sure that I don't rush and say something I shouldn't or like phrase something poorly. You have to remember that spenders are intelligent. Just because people spend more than you will on the game doesn't make them dumb, right? It doesn't mean that they don't know the things about the game that you do. It doesn't mean that they can't think long term the same way you do. It doesn't mean they don't have the same control you do. And where I'm going with that is that spenders learn from patterns like this, right? And so when I talk about this would feel bad for the spenders, that means that that kind of event in the future will make less money. And bluntly, that is a bigger problem for the game still being here in 5 years than for non-spenders to be upset because they have to wait a few more months or however long for champions to be in the basic where they probably won't get them anyway. Like, you're saying what about, but I'm telling you, those two are not the same weight. Ah, Alfie. I don't have time to start that whole. Uh, yeah, no, I need to go to work. It's noon. Um, but you're wrong is the fast thing. Defenders and attackers aren't evaluated the same way, and they never will be. It's an incredibly it's an incredibly common point of rhetoric from certain content creators, but that's not how that works. Thanks, Pablo. It's like you're already working. On some level I am, but like I want y'all to understand this. And it's hilarious to me that my viewer count did not drop after I said, "All right, no more Battlegrounds." So clearly y'all want to talk about this too, and so that makes me want to stay, right? I do like talking to y'all about this stuff, but I need to go do work. But come back for a future stream, Alfie. We can talk about that more. I don't want to shut you down. I just don't want to open a can of worms that I'm not going to have the ability to fully address. But yeah, we can talk in the future. Thanks, Mookie. Take care, everyone. Appreciate the conversation.